Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. My name is Cameron. We are back today with another live stream, joined by Cal today, and we're going to sit down and talk about the latest Everton rumours regarding the vacant manager's position. It's been a week now, or just over a week, since Carlo Ancelotti had left Everton Football Club, and over the last week or so we've been linked with about 452,000 different managers, and it's still continuing to this day. To be fair, we still are no closer to knowing who's going to come in. Yes, we've heard some names more than others, but we still don't know who's going to be the next manager of Everton Football Club. We've had some rumours over the last 24 hours regarding ex-Liverpool manager Rafa Benitez. We've heard about, obviously, Christophe Galtier over the last couple of days as well. Roberto Martinez has been linked again, which just baffles me personally. But we're going to get into talking about all of them in today's live stream and get everybody's thoughts, of course, in the comments as well. But just before we get into that, Cal, how are you, mate? And how are you sort of feeling at the moment? It seems like every day is just a Groundhog Day, isn't it, at the moment? Like you just said before, it's a different name. It's somebody else being linked. And we're no real further down the line than we were sort of a week ago when Carlo first left, are we?
Yeah, I'm good, Cam. Thanks for having me on the show. Of course, I think I speak for most Evertonians when we spend our times refreshing our Twitter newsfeed, seeing if there's any developments, anything that's happened. And, it just seems to be a big circle at the minute of, just different names being branded about. And, there seems to be no real, the penny hasn't sort of dropped yet. So where we can sort of think of the direction it's going to head, because usually we get to that stage where, a story sort of breaks and we start to think, there's legs in this, and I think this is going to be the way that this could be the route heading down, but there's been none of that just yet. So it's just still a waiting game, mate, innit? And it's just all speculation at the minute, and that's all I've had for the last couple of weeks.
That's it, mate. That's it. You're spot on. It is just a speculation game. And like you said, there's various different journalists coming out and saying, various different things. One journalist might say, oh, it's Benitez and Mashiri's chosen Benitez. And another journalist might say, no, it's Martinez. Is there any sort of names? I know this is an issue that we've all had as Evertonians over the last week or so. It's really difficult, not only because we're going from Carlo Ancelotti, who has won everything that he's won and is one of the most decorated football managers in the game. Not only are we going from him to somebody who is very clearly going to be a step down, but there's also, out of everybody that we're being rumoured with, there's not necessarily one name that everybody can sort of get behind. There's, everybody that we're being linked with is sort of, there's positives and negatives, and there's going to be split opinions on whether they come into Everton Football Club or not. So is there any one name out of the about 100 that we're being linked with over the last week that you're sort of thinking, yeah, I'm fully in on him, whether it be Martinez returning, whether it be Duncan Ferguson, whether it be Galtier, whether it be Graham Potter? Is there one that you think, yeah, I'm fully on board with him coming in? Or is it just, are you sort of the same as most other people, where it's like you really, really don't know, everybody's just not very exciting?
Well, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, Cam, haven't you? It's one of those, in it, where there doesn't seem to be one definitive name the whole fan base can get behind and everyone can be unified and want to move forward with that. And I think that's a big sort of something that we haven't really faced as much in different managerial situations in the past, and whether that's down to the lack of quality managers out there at the moment, I don't know. But everyone just seems to have so many different opinions at the minute. No one's completely right, no one's completely wrong, and that's just the way it is. For me personally, I think over the last 72 hours, with the whole emergence of Galtier as the name, I think that's a name that excites me. And I think a lot of Evertonians, when they've sat down and sort of listened to his story, if you like, what he's done at Saint-Etienne and Lille, it seems very much to fit the Everton mould. And is this the way forward? Is this someone who can deliver Evertonians' expectations, not just, in the short term, but in the long term? Or is this going to be an individual who's not going to see us as like a stepping stone? There's been a lot of talk about your Contes and your Pochettinos, but I just don't think that's the way to go. I think we're in a position to attract them managers, and B, the first sight of a bigger club, so to speak, as we saw with Carlo, they'll be away, and that's the last thing we need right now.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. You're absolutely spot on, mate. I mean, some really good points there. You're right. A lot of people are sort of still on the Conte sort of train, and go and get Conte. He's the best man for the job. He's the most experienced. I agree, mate. He's not for me either, because Conte's shown in the last couple of years, in the last two jobs that he's had, is that when it doesn't go right for him, and when he doesn't get what he wants, he's not afraid to just walk away. He's just won the league at Inter Milan, but because he didn't get what he wanted, he's walked away with no issue whatsoever. He done it with Chelsea, won the league at Chelsea, didn't get what he wanted, so he was like, I'm getting off, I'm walking out of here. And I just think that he'd come to Everton and he'd probably walk into Finch Farm, within 5 minutes he'd see Fabian Delph and Alex Iwobi, and he'd probably go, I'm getting off here. I'm not even signing that contract. See you later. And we don't need that. Like you said, we need a manager that is going to come in and be here for the long run and is going to, is going to instantly sort of understand what it feels like to be at Everton Football Club, what it feels like to be the manager, and buy into the project and buy into the philosophies that Everton are trying to create and that identity that Everton need to find again, because we seriously have lost that identity over the last couple of years or so. And I just don't think Antonio Conte fits that whatsoever. He's a man that comes in, and if Antonio Conte is a manager that wants to be in the Champions League in his first season. He doesn't want to come in and build a squad, doesn't want to come in and build a team or be part of a project. He wants to come in and instantly get success with his teams and get what he wants. We're not in a
position at all to be instant success, I think a lot of Evertonians, I think in the last, especially since the other side of Christmas when our season started to spiral away, I think a lot of us started to realise that we're not in any position for instant success, mate. Not at all. We need stability, and we need a way forward, and we need a plan more than anything else. And I think Conte just completely goes against everything that we've just mentioned then. So it's a no from me.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think you're absolutely spot on. You're right. We need, like you said, we need somebody that's going to come in and provide some stability to the club and actually be dedicated to taking the club forward. And that's why Galtier's name's been mentioned. And we'll start with Galtier. Christophe Galtier, of course, Lille manager at the moment. It was heavily rumoured to be joining Nice this season, or sorry, for next season. Apparently he'd said that he'd taken Lille as far as he could get them, which is fair enough because he just won the league with them, to be honest. If he comes to Everton and leaves us in 3 years and says he's taken us as far as he can take us and we've won the league, I'll be happy with that. But of course, the Nice stuff seems to have just been an agreement in principle, nothing written down, and certainly nothing signed and sealed. And it's sort of emerged over the last 48 hours or so that Everton could be interested in approaching Christophe Galtier and bringing him in. It all come from a quote from former Lille sporting director Luis Campos, who is a very well-respected man in the world of football and let's be honest, one of the best sporting directors there is out there. He said that he believes that Christophe Galtier will be the perfect fit for Everton Football Club. He could come in, he could adapt to English football, the way in which he plays, the tactics. He thinks he'd do really well over here. He's worked with directors of football before, as we've just mentioned. He's also spoken about very highly by Lille's board and Saint Etienne's board, who were the club that he managed previously. Saint Etienne's board speak very highly of him and say they had a brilliant relationship with him. We know he's a little bit mad. If you haven't seen the videos on social media of him doing roly-polies on the pitch when Lille scored, and there's one where I think a player's being sent off, or the player's in the dressing room on his own, and he just runs in and starts jumping on the table and going a bit mad at him. So he's got that personality, which I want to talk to you about in a minute, Cal, because I think that personality is really, really important, and it's part and parcel of the reason as to why a lot of Evertonians are all for Duncan Ferguson coming in because of that, and it's part and parcel as to a lot of the reasons as to why fans believe Carlo Ancelotti didn't succeed at Everton is because he just didn't have that personality to connect with the players, or certainly to get the best out of the players. But taking away the jumping around on the sideline and all that sort of stuff, Galtier is a very good manager. He took Lille from struggling towards the bottom end of Ligue 1 to ultimately becoming champions within the space of 2 or 3 years. And I don't know if you see it the same, mate, but he seems like, or what I've gathered over the last 24 hours, he's the only name that everybody seems to go, yeah, do you know what? We'll get behind him, bring him in. He looks boss. Whether that's because fans just have seen a couple of videos and goes, yeah, he's a bit mad, get him in. Or whether that's because, different people have watched Lille and looked at how Lille have progressed over the last couple of years. But he is the only name at the moment on that list that I'm yet to see an Evertonian say, no, don't want him. He wouldn't be able to do a job. Obviously, there's worries about him coming over in the Premier League and not managing here before, but he seems to have galvanised the fan base a little bit, doesn't he? And is he a name that you'd think would suit Everton?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there his personality and his charisma, and these are all things we want to see as a manager. We all look at, Jurgen Klopp and, the passion, the way he gets stuck in. And let's not kid ourselves. We'd love to have a manager like that on the touchline.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're very much a club where we like things like that. And I feel like when you look at Carlo Ancelotti in the past, the Marco Silva, Ronald Koeman, they sort of fail to sort of grasp that. And then I feel like as fans, Ancelotti could do anything in the press conference, whether he asks a rhetorical question or he does something where he catches the journalist off guard or makes some comment and everyone loves it. And that's not even anything of great note. But this, he seems to be giving it the whole, gets. I think I saw a video with him with his players, and he was having. I don't know if you saw this. It was like he was he was like trying to kick a ball into like a window or something. Or, like,
Oh yeah, seen it this morning.
you know, like, he's like getting stuck in with the players, and you know, things like that can only be a good thing for like the team spirit and the camp. So you know, you mentioned before about how, you know, he ticks a lot of boxes for Evertonians, and I think you're spot on with that, because not only does his managerial style suit us, I think, and you know what he's done at previous clubs, also, you know, his age and the way he plays as well. I think, you know, I think he's quite accustomed to playing a 4-4-2, which, you know, has, you know, quite worked for us to a certain extent in the past. So whether it's a case of going back to basics to get the best out of some of these players, I don't know. It needs to be seen. But yeah, you know, you just have to look on social media and see a lot of Evertonians seem to really have about this manager. There seems to be so much said about, you know, your Espirito Santos, your Moises, Eddie Howe's, Potters, and everyone's got something to say about these managers, which, you know, rightly or wrongly, everyone's affected their opinions. But this guy, there seems to be something about this guy, and there seems to be a twinkling eye of the fan base, if you like, about this fella. And I think whether that transpires into the club making a move remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're spot on. I think you put it brilliantly there. It's like, I think it's that little bit of, oh, this fella's new to the conversation, and I also think a lot of it comes from the fact that a week ago when Carlo Ancelotti first left Everton, at that point we were all sort of under the impression that Christophe Galtier had already decided to join Nice, and that was signed, sealed, delivered, and that was that, you know, that his name was off the list, sort of. So he wasn't really considered or talked about for the first couple of days, and it was only when Luis Campos come out and mentioned his name, it was sort of like, well, why would he be mentioning his name if he's nailed on joining Nice? There wouldn't be no point in him saying, oh yeah, he'd be dead good at Everton because he's already joining Nice. So that's when the excitement started to come in. And you're right, he's a character, and you mentioned that video there, and I think one of the it was when he was at Saint Etienne a few years ago, and one of their players starts to hit the ball into it's a shed, isn't it? And it's through the window of the shed from about, I don't know how many yards it was away, and the player misses, and Galtier just gets the ball and just calmly slots it in and then runs away doing an E-slide. And it's just little things like that. And I think there's a lot to be said about a manager that's very hands-on and sort of a head coach rather than a manager. And you know, I got caught up a few months back when looking and sort of talking about head coaches and managers, and sort of thinking, well, is it just the same role but a different job title? But it's not. Effectively, it's not. What a manager is an old school footballer manager who comes in and dictates pretty much everything that goes on at the football club, from recruitment to style to system on the pitch to the way in which players are playing to obviously in-game substitutions and stuff like that. Whereas a head coach is effectively here to coach the players on the pitch, and the decisions are made by a director of football, which we've currently got in Marcel Brands, and who should be allowed to be making decisions. By the way, I want to talk to you about Brands in a moment as well, and a couple of the rumours we've seen over the last 24 hours about Machiri sort of sticking his head in there. And Galtier seems to be, well, it doesn't seem to be, I know he's a man who can work with the director of football, and he is very hands-on on the pitch. And I think one mistake Carlo Ancelotti made was, you know, I think David come out a few weeks ago and said that often Carlo Ancelotti would just say to the players, just play. And that's all right if you're managing Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema and Sergio Ramos and Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Paolo Maldini. You can afford to say to those players, just play. When you're managing Mason Holgate and Andre Gomez and Fabian Delph, you can't really go out and say, just play, because that's not good enough. I think Everton need a manager that's going to be on the pitch, moving players about. I said this the other day on one of our teams. We don't need a manager that stands in the dressing room and as a board and goes, right, you're going to go there, you're going to go there. And the players are just sitting there going, yeah, I don't really understand what he's saying, but I'm not going to say anything to him because he's the boss. We need a manager that's on the training pitch, physically moving players, going, when he makes that run, you make that run there, getting involved in training, being able to do that, because these players, and there's don't get me wrong, I still believe there's a lot of these players that aren't good enough to be at Everton and shouldn't be here.
Oh, not a chance.
Well, that's it. But the players that are good enough to be here still need that level of learning. They still need that physical, right, okay, I can see that there's the manager there. He's moved into that space, so I'll move into that space, rather than standing on the sideline and just saying, no, you need to do that. Well, what do we need to do? I'm the same, because it's mad, because you're learning in school, don't you? The different levels of learning, kinesthetic and all this and all that. And different people have different styles of learning. Some people can listen to a presentation and go and do something straight away with no issue. Some people need to be physically shown it and physically shown how to do it before they can do it. I think a lot of these Everton players need to be physically shown how to do a lot of different things without just being told how to do it, because they don't obviously get that. But in regards to Galtier, then he seems like the perfect choice in terms of, obviously, you know, he's won things. He's turned Lille from a side that, let's be honest, was struggling, into a side that won the league, and he will be a brilliant, you know, candidate to come in. How realistic do you think that is? Do you think it's sort of a situation? Because I said on the other day when I heard the Luis Campos stuff, I thought, is that maybe, Galtier having a word with Luis Campos saying, put the feelers out there because I want to move to Everton? Or is he sort of saying, put the feelers out there to give Nice a bit of a kick up the arse, to give me more money or to give me more demands? Because it seemed a little bit like it was sort of, I'm not really happy with the Nice offer, so put my name out there elsewhere. What do you think? It's a realistic choice? Do you think we're likely to see him come in, or do you think we're more likely to see a Graham Potter or a Nuno Espirito Santo?
What I will say is I think it'll be disastrous if the club don't even attempt or try to make any sort of contact or at least attempt to bring him in. I think that goes without saying. I think it is realistic. Yeah, I do. Let's not forget we were in dire straits when Ancelotti came into the club, and no one saw that coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I think it's completely realistic. I think it's how, let's not forget the stadium's going to be a big pull for any manager. I think, it all depends how Brands and Machiri present themselves and how they present this project, this plan, if you like, and, and if this is going to be something which Galtier would want to take on and go forward. Its track record suggests yes, if we look at what he's done with Saint Etienne and Lille. So it's difficult to see why this couldn't happen. I don't know if that's me getting carried away or anything, but it's difficult to see why he wouldn't. Listen, I'm not Christophe Galtier. I can't sit here and say whether he will or wouldn't. But it's I thought it's just the optimistic Evertonian inside me. But I just think that it's definitely realistic. I think if they're serious about getting him, and if they were prepared to offer managers in the past like Calum and Allardyce all this amount of money a week when we didn't have any sort of real stadium in tow or whatever. I don't know. I think it is realistic. I think it's not out of the realms of possibility at all. And I think I speak for a lot of Evertonians where I think we should say this is the guy we should pursue, because we've seen the fan base. We've seen this is the guy we seem to want. And let's hope that transpires into the boardroom and we can make this a reality. And fingers crossed, this can be something over the next few days, gathers a bit of legs.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. You're spot on. And I think, like you said, we've seen over the last couple of days with the fans is we really need a manager that's going to come in and galvanise the club and really pick us all up, because it's a bit of a, it's difficult at the moment as an Evertonian because there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of, we don't know what's going to happen, there's a lot of doubt. And we'll talk about Rafa Benitez in a moment and the links to him and various other managers. But a lot of the managers we've been linked with, you can tell it already be coming in with a section of the fan base, whether that be a majority or a minority, who automatically aren't very happy with him, be it Benitez because of his Liverpool connection, be it Graham Potter because he's managed at Brighton and that's not the same level as where Everton want to be. We really need a manager that everybody can get behind. And I know that whoever comes in, the majority of fans will get behind and will back. But the reality is, like the Benitez stuff, which we'll talk about in a moment, mate, Rafa Benitez comes in and loses 2 games on the bounce. You already know what's getting said about him. He's Liverpool, he's a copite, he's this, he doesn't want to be here, he hates the club, this, that and the other. And we don't need a manager that's going to come in and when things are going wrong, everybody's going to fall out of place with it. Everybody's going to give up on it. Everybody's going to throw the toys out the pram because of something that he'd done earlier on in his career, or because of something that he hadn't achieved earlier on in his career. We need a manager that's going to come in and really pick Everton up, pick the pieces up, glue them back together and move this, club forward and really, let's be honest, put an identity back into this football club, because we've got no identity at the moment. We don't know what we are. We don't know who we are. I'd love to sit down with a member of Everton's board, be it Ken Wright, Machiri, Denise Barrett-Baxendale, and just say, what is Everton? What are Everton? Because it's all good, you lot coming out in AGMs and saying, we want to win the league, we want to challenge for the Champions League, this, that and the other. But do you really want to do that, or are you just saying that to appease the fans? Are you happy with where we finished last season? Carlo Ancelotti come out previously and talked about pressure. Was there pressure on Carlo Ancelotti? Was he told, if you don't finish in the top 6 or 7, there's going to be pressure on you? Or was it just, it's all right, finishing 10th because it's Everton? I just don't believe that when the board are coming out and saying, this is where we want to be, this is where we need to be, I don't believe they actually think like that. I think there's a little bit of complacency at the football club that's been here for a long time, and it needs getting rid of. And I said this earlier on this morning, mate, I don't know if you were to agree. Christophe Galtier is a brilliant manager, a brilliant man manager. He's a brilliant coach. He works with the players. He's, like I said, he's bonkers on the sidelines. His tactics work. He's won the league at Lille. But Christophe Galtier, wherever he's been, be it Lille or Saint Etienne, has always had a fantastic relationship with a competent board, a board that will work with the manager, a board in Saint Etienne who recruited really well and worked brilliantly with Galtier to make that club a success. Lille's board are unbelievable. The recruitment at Lille is absolutely top top notch. That's why Luis Campos has been there, one of the best sporting directors in world football. So if Christophe Galtier has to come into Everton Football Club, that doesn't mean that everyone sits back and goes, right, okay, here's your fella, go and do. Everybody has to work together. Everybody has to pull the finger out, be it Marcel Brands, be it the board, and we all have to work to make Everton a success, because it can't just be all on Galtier, because it wasn't all on Galtier at Lille. They had the sporting director who was bringing in unbelievable players for dead cheap, making them into superstars and then selling them on. Lille, for me, in the same bracket as like a Leicester with recruitment, and we know Everton are nowhere near that level as Leicester are. So everybody needs to improve at the club, the players, obviously the new manager, the board, the director of football. It's not a case of just bringing in a manager and going, right, that's it now, he's going to work his magic. Everybody needs to pull their finger out and do more. Do you sort of agree with that? Because Galtier has spoken, and board members of Lille and Saint Etienne have spoken about the relationship they had with Galtier. There's been a lot of, I don't want to say negativity, but there's been a lot of criticism of Everton's board recently and how Everton's board do things and work things. And we'll talk about some of the rumours in a moment about Farhad Moshiri maybe sticking his nose in when it's Marcel Brands' job to do so. But do you sort of agree? Do you think Everton's board and everybody at Everton really needs to pull their finger out and improve no matter who comes in as manager?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, even much more so that Brands has just granted a new 3-year deal. I think he seriously needs to start directing the footballers. I think yourself, you've said it on your channel. I've seen a lot of people say that the director of football needs to start to an extent directing what he's paid to do. And if managed to get Galtier in and he complements the role of Brands, then happy days. Then maybe this will give Brands a bit more flexibility and freedom to be able to do what he wants to do. There was a lot of rumblings that Ancelotti and himself maybe didn't work quite as well in that way. The whole concept of manager and director of football, we don't know the facts about any of that stuff. But if Galtier does come in and he has a track record of sort of working well under that sort of director of football model, then it can only be a good thing, because for too long at Everton, especially since Marcel Brands has been in place, I think there's been a lot of there's been a lot of questions as to who is actually bringing in and making the final call on a lot of these players that we're signing, i.e. Delphi or Iwobi's, like who where does the book stop? So I think if we do get Galtier, I think maybe we'll start to see a bit more clarity and the sort of director of football model a bit clearly, because we know that Galtier works in this sort of way. So it's just another plus point for bringing this man in as manager.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And I've said it before, and we will move on to the Benitez stuff in a moment and some of the other rumours. But as you just said briefly there, it's Marcel Brands has to be directing the football. There's very little point bringing it. I used the analogy early on one of our teams early on, and I said it's like if me or Cal or anyone in the comments was a multi-billionaire and we had loads of money and we brought in an accountant to deal with that money and to use that money and to work with it, and then we basically just went, no, I'll do all that. You step aside, I'll do all that. What are we paying him for? What are we paying Marcel Brands for if he's not going to be allowed to make the decisions? If he's not going to be allowed to choose the manager, to bring in the players to suit the system and the style that Everton want to be? Forget what your manager wants and the style your manager brings in. Everton needs to get a structure and a style together that we then create as a football club, and we bring in a manager to suit that style, not bringing in a manager with a style and going, right, we'll adapt to everything that you do. No, we need to bring in a manager that adapts to what we are as a football club. That's what all successful football clubs have got. It's got to be down to Marcel Brands now, hasn't it, mate? It's time for Farhad Moshiri to step aside. And I know he's the man with the money and it's his money, this, that, and the other. But like we said, he is paying Marcel Brands to do a job. And the reality of the situation is, from what we're reading in the news and from what we've seen over the last 3 years, there's been certain situations where he's not allowing Marcel Brands to do his job. And that can't continue, can it?
No, especially not. Like I mentioned before, the whole 3-year contract thing, there was a lot of women and ahhing as if he'd even extend that in the first place. And if he didn't, maybe that would give you a bit of an indication as to what role he has been having. But, the fact that he has been given another 3-year contract, there's obviously a strong belief that this is the model and this is the concept that the club does want to work under. So if that's the case, we've seriously got to start, it's got to work both ways, and we've got to really bring in a manager who is prepared to really have a good, close working relationship with Brands and really bring in this caliber of player that is going to make us successful. And there's been a lot, for me, there's been too many question marks about that in the past, about who's bringing the players, what does Brands do, what does this happen, and like we need to get rid of all this ambiguity and this no one really knows who's doing what. And hopefully if we do manage to bring in Galtier, this will be the perfect opportunity to really come out and say, this is where we want to go. These are the sort of players we want to sign. This is the plan, this is the vision. And I've got a man in place who can work, parallel to Brands, and, hopefully that brings success.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Absolutely spot on. Like you said there, at the minute, there's no responsibility at the club. There's no accountability. We can all sit here and say Marcel Brands is this, that, and the other because he paid 28 million for Alex Iwobi. But did Marcel Brands pay 28 million for Alex Iwobi, or was there somebody in his ear going, right, we're not getting Zaha now, we've got 2 hours left before the transfer window shuts, who's on your list? And Brands has got this lad at Arsenal, Alex Iwobi, probably pay around 10, 15 million for him, but he'd take a couple of days to negotiate, and someone in the background's gone, there's 30 million, buy him because we need somebody who, at the moment, as Cal's just quite rightly said, we don't know who's making the decisions. We don't know who's choosing the managers, choosing the certain players. So nobody can take accountability for it. If you give Marcel Brands full reign on choosing the manager, full reign on choosing the players, and then that manager that comes in doesn't do a good enough job, or those players that come in aren't good enough, then the responsibility is on Marcel Brands. We can all look at Marcel Brands and go, he hasn't done a good enough job. I really struggle at the moment, mate, to look at Marcel Brands and massively criticise him, because I do think that a lot of the decisions, or some of the decisions certainly, that we all think were down to Marcel Brands, I think some of them aren't down to Marcel Brands. I think he's had a word in his ear, and he's basically being told, it's that thing, isn't it, where if Marcel Brands is just going to be an advisor to Farhad Moshiri, and by that I mean it's all good Farhad Moshiri going to Brands and going, right, got this list of managers, what do you think? Got Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, Nuno, Rafa Benitez, and Brands goes, no, don't go near any of them. Go and get Christophe Galtier, he's the best man for the job. And Moshiri goes, yeah, sound. I'm offering Benitez 15 million a year. What's the point? He is just an advisor. He's just there to basically give advice. That's not what his job is. His job is to be the director of football. He should be sailing this ship, whether we like him or not, whether we think he's done a good enough job or not. It's not irrelevant because all fan opinion matters. Of course it does. But in this situation, it doesn't really matter, let's be honest. It doesn't matter because the club have given him that trust. The club have given him that new 3-year contract. So the club clearly believe he's good enough to do that job. And this is where I have an issue with the club, is they're all well and good coming out and saying, yeah, Marcel Brands is our director of football. He is the one sailing the ship. He is the one making decisions. But then you're seeing rumours from Paul Joyce, who's a very reliable source, saying Farhad Moshiri's made contact with Rafa Benitez. Farhad Moshiri likes Roberto Martinez. Well, why is Farhad Moshiri making that contact? Why is Farhad Moshiri making that decision? Because Marcel Brands might be sitting in his house now going, what am I meant to do? I'm the director of football at this football club. I'm being paid to do a job. And you've got people above me who are going and just making that decision themselves instead of letting me do the job. And if Rafa Benitez comes into Everton and he fails within 6 months because of the Liverpool connection and he doesn't do well, are we all going to sit here and blame Marcel Brands? I won't be, because I'll be saying, hang on, let's rewind to 2 weeks before Rafa Benitez come in, when the rumours were that it was Farhad Moshiri that was going after him. So how is it Marcel Brands' responsibility when he hasn't chosen that manager? And that's where Everton and I think Moshiri needs to maybe take himself out the equation and go, look, it's my money, yeah, and I get that, it's his decision because it's his money, but he's paying a fella to make those decisions for him, and if he's not happy with that fella making those decisions, why give him a new 3-year contract? What would be the point? Anyway, let's get into some of the comments live. We are live. Somebody asked before, are we live? We are live. Let's get into some of the comments before we move on to discussing some of the other transfer rumours, because, like I said, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, Cal, of Farhad Moshiri getting himself involved when we all just scratching our heads going, why? Benjamin says they can't seem to sign anyone yet, and the transfer window is going to close soon. It's only just opened yesterday, didn't it, the transfer window? So we've got a while, but we do need to get a move on. Eugene says, Rafa to Everton, not for me, mate. Erwin Koeman. I don't know if it's actually Erwin Koeman, but there you go. He says no to Rafa. He says Galtier Hart. Wayne says, where are you? Erwin says, hey. Wayne says, how's everybody doing? Is right. Erwin says, just want a manager now. Wayne says, Galtier seems a really good choice. He says, Camlad is right, mate. What's happening? Brian says, got to be Christophe with his recent activities with Lille. Halu says, who would you guys want to manage Everton? We'll go into talking about that in a little bit later on in the stream. Wayne says, recruiting at Lille was fantastic. I know a lot of Campos. I know a lot of that is Campos, but still, yeah, well, and that's what we've just said, as Cal said before, it's all well and good bringing a manager in, but if you're not going to have the recruitment to allow that manager to make his, to take that club to a success, then what's the point? There's no good bringing Galtier in and then going and signing bloody Kieran Trippier for £40 million. You've got to sign the right level of player. Erwin says, no to Rafa. Galtier is the closest everyone to be happy. Has to be Galtier, surely, says Ethan. Whammy says the most important for me is, I can show the comments on the stream here. I didn't even know that. There you go. The most important for me is Galtier, Lille, where well still they all know their jobs on that pitch. That was sorely missing with Ancelotti. Aaron Koeman says no to Moyes. What's Conte built? Nothing, says Wormy. Anyway, let's get into some of the other transfer rumours then, because it's really, really interesting. And over the last 24 hours, we've seen a lot. Paul Joyce, who, like I said, whether you like him or not, is a very reliable source. And usually what Paul Joyce says is accurate because he doesn't put his neck on the line for random information. He come out earlier on today and said that Farhad Moshiri has already made contact with Rafa Benitez and is giving serious thought to the former Newcastle manager. Moshiri is also giving serious thought on Nuno Espirito Santo, Christophe Galtier, David Moyes, Roberto Martinez and Graham Potter. Now, the first thing that sticks out in our mind, certainly mine, I don't know if you feel the same, Cal, is Farhad Moshiri is giving serious thought. Farhad Moshiri is making contact. This isn't, it's not right, is it?
No, listen, Farhad Moshiri's the money man. Farhad Moshiri's the guy who pulls a string financially. I have no doubts about that. But again, we seem to just be saying the same thing. It's not his area of expertise to be making sound judgment on who is the correct manager to manage Everton Football Club. And I feel like, again, we touched on before about we don't know who's making the signings in the past. We don't even know who's been making the managerial signings when you look at yourselves and all the rest of it. Absolutely. It's like, and we it's a similar sort of model with the players. Like Marcel Brands has to have the final judgment call on this, because Moshiri, he doesn't with all due respect, he doesn't possess the knowledge, he doesn't possess the tactical knowledge, everything from what a manager can bring in the short and long term. And we can't get caught up in this sentiment. I don't know whether Moshiri's spending too much time with Ken Wright or whatever, but we can't sort of be going down this route of the sentimentality, because we've seen in the past it doesn't really work, you know. Yeah. And I just feel like Rams has to really step up to the plate now, and the managerial situation, the book has to stop with him, and he has to be the one that's going to bring in the manager. Because if not, you know, as we said before, what's the point in him being there? Moshiri, by all means, you know, sign the checks and the money over by all means, but making that judgment call needs to come from that area of expertise.
Yeah, no, I agree, absolutely spot on, and I think you're right there. And like we said, any rumour now that I'm seeing, and it's Farhad Moshiri this, Farhad Moshiri that, I'm sort of thinking, well, what does Marcel Brands think about this? Because Marcel Brands could come out and go, don't want Rafa Benitez, he wouldn't suit Everton, and we should all go, sound, that's where we are, that's where Everton are as a club. We don't want him because he doesn't suit Everton. It's not Farhad Moshiri's job to make that decision, because like you've just said quite rightly, mate, brilliant businessman, loads of money, signs the checks, not a footballing man. Not a footballing man whatsoever, and he's brought in a footballing man to make those tough decisions. Just on those names that were being rumoured, then taking away the fact that Farhad Moshiri seems to be taking over from Marcel Brands. What you make of them? What you make of Rafa Benitez? I know he's the closest in terms of a Hollywood name, as per se, and I don't really like that term, but there you go. He's probably the closest to Carlo Ancelotti in regards to what he's won. Champions League winner, won trophies obviously with them lot, but that's not necessarily what Everton need, in my opinion. Everton need the best manager for Everton, not just the best manager in terms of his CV that's out there. We had the best manager in terms of his CV that's out there, and he's walked away because a better club coming for him. What do you make on the Rafa Benitez stuff then? Just for me, briefly, I think he'd be coming in with a rod in his back already, and he'd be coming in with the guarantee that if he said the wrong thing in a press conference, or he maybe lost 2 games on the bounce, everybody would go sour and it would all go against him. And I just don't think we need that at the football club at the moment. But what are your thoughts on Rafa Benitez, mate?
No, not for me. You know, I can see why some people might want him. You know, proven track record. You know, big name. I just don't think it's going to go down well with the fans. You mentioned there, for your own back. I feel like straight away, a couple of losses on the bounce. You know what Everton fans are like, and it's just going to. You can just see the direction which it had. You know, with all kinds of, you know, the sourness on Twitter and everything. You can just see what direction it'd take after so long, and there'd be so much. I feel like it just open the floodgates would just open for finger pointing and everything like this. I just can't see it ending well. I really can't. I'm not taking anything away from him as a manager, because I feel like, you know, he's proven that he can do a job. He's won European titles at Liverpool, Chelsea. He did a good job, albeit with what he had at Newcastle, I feel. But I just don't think he's the right fit for Everton. I really don't. If people are basing Benitez to be the to be the Everton manager on the basis that he has a house within the City region. That's not enough for me. I don't think he's the man for Everton. I really don't.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree, mate. And the reason as to why he's got a house within the City region is obviously because of his connections with a certain other football club that isn't Tranmere.
That's it.
And his quotes that he'd come out during his time at Liverpool and spoken about Everton. And I know he's since come out. I think he was on Monday Night Football before we appointed Ancelotti because let's not get it twisted. Rafa Benitez wants the Everton job. Rafa Benitez 100% wants the Everton job.
He'd come tomorrow if he was off there. But you know what? Football fans don't have short memories. And we all remember the time that he labelled Everton a small club and this, that, and the other. Football fans don't forget. And, I'm sure, bygones be bygones and, he would accept the job offered it. But I feel like for us as a club right now, you weigh him up against the pros that someone like Galtier brings. And it's a no contest for me. And I just don't think, especially where we are now, I just don't think he's the man. I just think it's going to add more cons than pros, if you like. It's going to just sprout more problems in the long term for me. So it's a no.
Yeah, no, I agree. And let's look at it just in terms of Rafa Benitez as a manager as well. It's not like we're talking about Jurgen Klopp coming to Everton and you look and go, this lad's won a Premier League and a Champions League in the last 18 months. It's not like you're looking at a manager who's previously managed Liverpool but has then gone on and managed and won 4 Champions Leagues and won the league in every club he's been. This is a manager who was at Newcastle the most recently in the Premier League. And like you say, I agree, done well with what he had. He had very minimal sauce and he done okay, but he never blew anybody's skirt up with Newcastle. And let's be honest, Everton's expectations are not the same as Newcastle's expectations. And then he went to China and he worked there for, however long, a year or so. And again, worked in a league that isn't comparable to the Premier League. So it's not like we're talking about a Rafa Benitez who has recently won an awful lot of trophies and has proven that he can be the man to run with the Everton project. I don't think Rafa Benitez is a man that's going to come in and run with a project whatsoever. I think he's going to want to come in to a ready-made team that's good enough to win titles and challenge in Europe. Yes, early on in his career, he might have come into the club and built the team up and made, and won championships. But that was 10, 15 years ago. He done that. That's not now, 15 years on where, for the last couple of seasons, he hasn't really been at the highest level. So, no, I agree. I just think for me, Rafa Benitez,
It's not the right time. He's not the right fit for this club at the minute. Everything that's going on in Everton Football Club at the minute, Rafael Benitez is not going to be the answer. Let me tell you.
No, I agree. Not a chance. And look, I get some fans might say, he's the best man for the job. He's the best name for the job, but I don't think he is. He might be CV-wise and what he's won-wise. He might have won more than Galtier or than some of the other managers being linked with, but it's not all about what you've won.
It's the exact same concept of players, and people made points in recent weeks about going for these Hollywood names like Coutinho and Zaha and Bale. Name-wise, absolutely, but they're not going to do the right job for what we need right now. And this is for me the exact same concept has to apply with the manager here. Galtier, his name's not on lights by any means. Half of those, let's be honest, a few weeks ago, never really heard of him, really, let's be honest. Yeah. But when you sit down, you think about it and what they can bring to our current state of affairs at the club. It's the same for players. It's the same for manager. It's got to be the right fit, and I just think they've got to be so careful what they do here. They're really on a knife edge, and that goes for the players, but the managers as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely spot on. I think you're spot on there, mate. We have to be careful and we have to get this right, because if we don't get it right, we could be spiraling down into some negative territory, and we're already not at the greatest stage at the moment anyway. We don't need for that to get any worse, let's be perfectly honest. I want to talk to you about Roberto Martinez in a moment, because he was on that list according to Paul Joyce, and he's been on a couple of in the couple of journalists' mouths about potential managers to succeed Carlo Ancelotti. One rumour I did read was that Marcel Brands is a fan of Roberto Martinez, which is again, I still don't want Roberto Martinez back at Everton, but I'd rather it be Marcel Brands being a fan than Farhad Mashidi being a fan. Marcel Brands also a fan of Graham Potter as well. We found that out a couple of days ago. But before we get into that, let's get into some more of the live comments before we do that. I'm made up with this new feature where I can lash comments on the screen. I think it's dead boss, but I've just lost where I was to with the comments. B says, is this live? It is. Paul says, have you seen where Galtier was going to slap an opponent who'd done a bad challenge on one of his players? I didn't see it, mate, but again, I'd rather not advocating violence, obviously, but I'd rather that mentality than Seamus Coleman going into a dressing room and asking if a player's all right after he's made a shocking challenge on one of our own players, which is just such a weak defeatist mentality, and it frustrates me so much. Whammy says, I can understand Gerrard, defo, no, but I'd accept Rafa. But I think Galtier is a bit more exciting and potentially better. Gerrard, I said this on one of our teams the other day, mate, and I don't know if you'd agree. Steven Gerrard, if he wasn't Steven Gerrard, would probably be the perfect fit. He's young. He seems like he's not afraid to get involved with the players, have a bit of a shouting war. He gets involved with the board. He's just won the league at Rangers for the first time in a decade. But he's Steven Gerrard, so he's not even in the equation. He's not coming to Everton.
It hurt Liverpool fans more than it hurt Everton fans, that one.
But wouldn't it be proper Everton for him to come to Everton for a year and then go to Liverpool and leave us and then go and again, it's a rod for, we don't need a manager that's going to come in that fans are automatically sitting there going, well, yeah, I'll give him a chance, but the chances, if we don't win the first 5 games, he's a cop-out and I'm going against him because he's got the connections with Liverpool. We don't need that. We need somebody that's going to galvanise the club and make us ultimately look. What we have found out, and some people might know this, Cal, you might have got onto this years ago. I was obviously very naive and I've only got onto this recently. But what we've found out in the last 2 weeks is that managers, players, directors of football, they will say whatever they want to say to make people get on their side. Carlo Ancelotti sprouted a load of nonsense about how he wants to be here when the stadium's built and he loves this club and it's a family club and he loves Crosby and it's a belter. And as soon as he got a chance to jump ship to a better club in a better situation, he went. Now, I'm not saying that Carlo Ancelotti was lying when he said what he said, but I do think there was an element in his mind where he thought, yeah, I like living here. I want to be here for a long time. But if somebody else comes in for me and it's a better offer, I'll go. Because all as footballers are and football managers are opportunists. That's all they are. There's no loyalty in football anymore. There's no loyalty whatsoever. So whoever we bring in, we have to be prepared to know that they might say and all. And I said this when Ancelotti left, mate. I don't want a manager to come in and spread all this crap about how much he loves Everton and Everton are a big club and Everton are this and that. Save it, leave it. It's all a load of nonsense. And let's be honest, most of the people that say it don't mean it anyway. Leave it, just go and do your job. I'd rather the manager come out and go, look, I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years. I might be at Everton. I might have been sacked by Everton and be at Brighton. I might be at Barcelona. I don't know where I'm going to be, but I'm going to do my job that I'm being paid for to do here. Then feed us all this emotional spiel and then let us down, because I can't remember feeling as bad as I felt last week as an Evertonian. Because let's be honest, we've lost managers before. Most of the time it's been on our accord. We've sacked them. We've got rid of them because they're not good enough. David Moyes left without being sacked, but we knew David Moyes was leaving 6 months before he left. We knew he was leaving on his last game because he come out and done a speech. So that was pretty much, although he'd left, it was something that we knew was happening. Carlo Ancelotti, 2 weeks ago, mate, I was sitting here talking about how looking forward I was to next season under Carlo and the players he's going to bring in. Now he's gone. So we can't, I hate that all the emote. And I know managers come out and they want to rally behind the club and say all of the right things and all that sort of stuff, but I'm not really interested in that anymore. Just come in and do your job. And even if you come out and say...
Evertonians will never trust what another manager has to say ever again after that. That feel like that really, for a lot of fans, that certainly did it for them.
Absolutely, mate. You're spot on. Liam says Galtier has to be the choice, would work with brands, bringing in young quality and developing the youth we've got. Up the F and Toffees, go and get him, tell Nice we're Everton, and that's that. Well, I said this the other day, forget your agreement, lads. I said this the other day, mate. Don't know if you agree with me, but I said about, Everton drawing up a list of managers that are available. And I said it really frustrated me on my stream because I used the Real Madrid example and I said, well, was Carlo Ancelotti available to Real Madrid? No, he wasn't. He was contacted to Everton on £12 million a year, but they didn't care because what they did is went, we don't care about Everton. Who are Everton? We're Real Madrid. We're arguably the biggest football club on the planet. We want that man and we're going and getting that man. And they come and they done it. And now we're all sitting here going, what happens now? Do you sort of think Everton need to be a little bit more cutthroat with that? And if there's a certain manager they want, whether it be Galtier, whether it be Potter, whether it be Bielsa at Leeds, go out and just go, no, we're going to test the waters because we're Everton and we want this man. So he might say no, the club might say no. That's fair enough. But he might say, actually, yeah, you know what? I will jump ship. We need to move with the times a bit. And I think there's still a mentality thing at Everton where we're nicey. It's no, we can't go for him because he's currently in a job. He's working there and we don't want to upset them. Real Madrid didn't do that to us, did they? They just went nonsense to Everton fans and how they're going to feel. That's the man we want and that's the man we're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying, definitely. I feel like it's one of them, isn't it, where 100% Everton are on a different level to your Brightons and whoever else. And I've no doubt if Everton wanted Graham Potter, he could have no problem at all. But it's difficult to compete with the Real Madrid, as we found out the hard way the other week. But yeah, if we want to be ambitious and we don't want to be walked all over, then yeah, you're right. We have got to, and what have we got to lose if we want to manage it? We have, and this goes for Galtier as well. No, we're not really dealing with a club as such, but we need to say to this man that we're going to be a club that can do things, and we do want to do things, and we need to we need to make people buy into the system and everything, because I feel like it's very easy for people to overlook us. So we need to really this whole managerial search, it's imperative that we really sell the dream in a way. That's quite difficult at the moment, given the whole thing in the last few weeks. But it wasn't so long ago, around March, when we just beat West Brom. We were in the top 4, and we thought, we're going places here. And that's that sort of mentality from that period of time. We need to maintain that in our search. So we do have the capabilities to go places, and this is what we've got to assert when we're getting these managers, because if not, we will just get walked over, which unfortunately we did see the other week.
No, you're absolutely spot on, mate. I couldn't agree more. And I think you absolutely nailed it there. We have to assert ourselves, and we have to ultimately, like you said, sell the dream of Everton, sell the dream of coming and working in a club that's going to have a new stadium on the banks of that. Just go into the meeting, and before you've even opened your mouth, go see our new stadium. They're bossing it. It's going to be built in 3 years. It looks dead good. Going to have loads of fans coming in. Don't even mention the job. Just go in and go, or make a point of having a big poster of what the stadium's going to look like on the wall, and go, oh yeah, before we get into this interview, new stadium, that there, be opening in 3 years. And I know you might go, oh, that's cringy, it'll never work, but why wouldn't it? Galtier might look and go, this is a club that are going places here. They've got big ambitions before he's even had an interview with them. It's those little things, isn't it, about doing that, putting the feelers out there. Oh yeah, that's Bramley Moor, that'll be built in 3 or 4 years, our new stadium, yeah, this, that, new, that. Oh yeah, there's a little transfer list there, a couple of the players we're looking at there, yeah, they're the level of players we want to bring in at the club, right? So we get down and start the interview, all of a sudden that puts the feelers in his head, or any manager's head, is to go, yeah, these are serious here. These are before he's even had the chance to look at the current squad, because we want to keep a lot of those players away from him as much as possible. Don't make sure that if it's Galtier or whoever else is getting interviewed, make sure that there's no training going on in the background, because you probably look out the window and go, no, yeah, not a chance, I'm going here. But like you said, mate, there's a reason as to why Luis Campos come out and said that Galtier would be a perfect fit for Everton. He's not just come out and said that off his own back. He's come out and said that personally, because I think Galtier's phoned him up and gone, do us a favour, mate, go out in an interview and just put my name in the hat for the Everton job, because I wouldn't mind working in the Premier League. Sort of almost giving the feelers out to say, come and get me, come and approach me, come and, if you want me, come and get me. I haven't signed the deal with Nice yet. There's a reason he hasn't signed the deal with Nice, obviously. Same reason as to why David Moyes hasn't signed his contract with West Ham. If he wants to stay at West Ham, it'd have been signed. It's been on the table for however many weeks. So anyway, we're all on for a no to Rafa Benitez. What about Roberto Martinez, mate? Linked with Everton again. Apparently Marcel Brands is a fan of him. Apparently Farhad Moshiri's a fan of him as well. I think Evertonians are very quick to remember that first season under Roberto Martinez, which was unbelievable. Best season I've witnessed as an Evertonian in my lifetime, certainly. But we almost forget the 18 months that followed it, which was just utter dreadfulness. Yeah. I'm a big no for Roberto Martinez. Where do you stand on that?
The thing with Martinez, and you said it right there, that first season was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah. When we put them 7 wins together, and it genuinely looked like we were going to make the Champions League before we ended up right there the death. And that was a great season. Lukaku wearing the number 17 shirt, the old the Microsoft Paint badge, everything about that season was just incredible. But then it all turned very sour very, very quickly. And the whole defensive setup just completely killed us. It completely murdered us. And if we didn't have Romelu Lukaku in them sides, I feel like it would have been an even worse story than it already was. I remember towards the back end of his tenure, that 3-0 defeat to Sunderland, the heartbreak at Wembley. It's they leave scars, mate. And I don't know. There's the argument maybe that when Roberto had money, he made some all right signings, and to be fair, he sort of left as Moshiri came in, so he hasn't really worked under that, having the money available. But then there's the whole, does he have a lot of money available with the whole FFP situation? So it's one of them. It's a no. I can see why the argument would be there. Give Martinez money, get him playing how we did in that first season. But I feel like that ship has very much sailed, given what happened from 2015 to 2016.
Yeah, no, I that's it, and you're spot on it. If you were to say right, Martinez comes in and for 5 years, Everton play like they did in 2013-14, and everyone would be like, yeah, boss, bring him in, absolutely brilliant. But if you were to say Martinez comes in and Everton play like they did in 15-16, you'd be a bit like, no, not a chance whatsoever. Because let's not forget with Martinez as well, he was very stubborn on what he wanted to do and his plan, and it was very much plan A. And if plan A doesn't work, I'm still going to go with plan A. And I remember
he was too nice, Cam, I think, as well. I think he was too nice. Lovely man, got the club, but I just think he was too nice. We need someone who's going to chomp at the bit and really, if we had, it's almost like Sildies. If we had a little bit, we had big dunks sort of like mentality with like Ancelotti's like track record,
experience.
Yeah, it's like you want a bit of everything, but for me, Martinez, too many cons. I feel like he made his bed with them last couple of years he had. They were some dark times at Everton Football Club.
Yeah. That's it. If you're enjoying, by the way, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll get back in the comments in a moment. Yeah, I remember Martinez coming out after the derby. I think we'd lost 4-0 or something, and he come out and tried to spin a positive on it, and it was just like...
there was no plan B. There was no plan B.
No.
There was no plan B at all. And it did get to a point where we were forced to watch it week in, week out, to the point where it got beyond repair, and there was no option but to sack the man. And eventually that's what did happen.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Spot on. Well, let's move on to a couple of the other names then. Obviously, another former Everton manager has been linked over the last couple of weeks or so, David Moyes. Again, obviously, there's a lot of talk about him signing a new contract at West Ham. For me, he hasn't signed a new contract at West Ham yet, and there's a reason for that. I think David Moyes would run back to Everton. I had a West Ham fan on our team earlier on saying, no, he wouldn't. Why would he want to come back to Everton? Because it's Everton, and he loves Everton. He's got a boss relationship with everyone at Everton. So as much as he's done well at West Ham, I honestly think David Moyes would run back to Everton if he was given the chance. Where do you sort of stand on the Moyes thing? I don't think he'd be able to work with Marcel Brands personally, because he is, as we said earlier on, a manager who likes to come in and control a football club, make every single decision, as he did at Everton when it was basically just him and Bill Kenwright. Where do you sort of stand on Moyes? Are you similar in not going backwards and bringing in an ex-manager, or do you think it's a bit different with Moyes because of how solid we were under him and we actually had an identity and we actually knew what we were and we fought for what we were?
Moyes is a funny one, because I feel like for the likes of me and yourself, growing up, they were our sort of days when Everton were our...
Yeah.
Or we enjoyed going to watch them. We had your Pinas, Artetas, Kales, and that was enjoyable football to watch. We were up there. We really were up there. I think a lot of our sort of generation, it's quite easy for us to say that we'd be quite happy to jump back to Moyes. But when you take a step back and you look, you mentioned Marcel Brands there would be able to work under that stewardship. I don't think so. I think Moyes did take it as far as he could. Of course, I get people's argument when they say, "Oh, well, Moyes didn't have the money," and with what little money Moyes did have, we made some of the signings which have gone down in Everton folklore. Yeah. So I get the Moyes shouts. I do get the Moyes shouts, and to be honest, if I'm being perfectly honest, I'd sooner have Moyes in than some of the names on that list. Whether it be short term anyway. But that's, again, it's not what Everton are looking for right now. And I'd sooner have Moyes than a few of the names on there. But I feel like, again, that ship is well and truly sailed. But I can see why the Moyes shout today. If Moyes did come back, I don't think I'd be as disappointed as I would be if some certain names came in, put it that way.
Yeah, spot on. Well, as Liam says in the comments, that's it, lad. I'm 25. I only have good memories with Moisey, but it's a no from me. Apparently Pellegrini's been linked today. Manuel Pellegrini, not a chance. Pro Zima says Moyes with money would take us places. You never know. He had money at Man United.
It's a tough one, yeah. It's a tough one, and yeah. I don't know.
That's it. It's difficult and it's a risk, but again, I think there'd be fans that would automatically be against Moyes because of the way in which he left. And let's not forget, David Moyes called Everton all sorts when he joined Man United. Did a disgrace, did this, did that. Yeah. He wanted to sign Baines. He did sign Fellaini. So again, sure, it's all good managers coming out now. Benitez and Moyes and this, that, and the other coming out 6 years later and go, oh no, I love Everton. Everton a boss. But let's not forget what these managers and people said when it wasn't, when Everton weren't boss in their eyes. Erwin Koeman says, near enough, every Merseyside derby wasn't a good memory. Neil says,
that's a very good point, yeah. That's a very good point.
True. Neil says, got to be Potter. Erwin says, Moyes didn't see us with respect in his last 6 months. Williams is still feeling the pain after that 4-0 derby slapping under Martinez. Yeah, it was horrible, mate. It was horrible. Liam says, bang on, Cam sell the stadium. Erwin says, Machete wants to play nice if they want Moyes. Why should we? Madrid Madrid didn't want to play nice, and even Moyes and Man United didn't even play nice. Well, that's it. It's about having a bit of a backbone about us and going out. And if there's a certain name Everton wants, go out and go for him, whether he's employed or not. I just don't think there's a name that the Everton board can agree on, and I think that's part of the problem. Couple of the other names, mate. Then obviously Graham Potter, Nuno Espirito Santo, both linked. Graham Potter's said to be on the list, but not really at the top of the list. He is rated by Marcel Brands, as I think the Athletic stated. Nuno Espirito Santo obviously seems to want to bring in about 452 million backroom staff, and apparently said to Crystal Palace he wanted them to sign Adama Traore and Pedro Neto, otherwise he wasn't signing, which is a bit mad. What do you make of either of them two? Are they two of the names that you'd rather see Moyes over, or
Espirito Santo for me, he doesn't inspire me at all. I can't see how he's going to inspire some of them players because they can't get inspired at the best of times. I feel like you're going down the Marco Silva route with him again, and we all know how that ended up. I feel like I hate to jump to these rash judgments, but I feel like if they employed Espirito Santo, we'd be sat here in 18 months' time with the same conversation again. I don't think he's the man. The fact that he was very within touching distance joining Crystal Palace tells you that that's not where you want to be aspiring to, with all due respect to him. Graham Potter, very clever manager from what I'm hearing from people say. He's got a bit of tactical nous about him. But you look at his defensive record, and that sort of rings alarm bells for me. With going back to what happened under Martinez, and I feel like there's been talk about how he struggles to handle the pressure of the fans, and I feel like if that's an issue for him, then Goodison Park's not the destination for him, mate. Let me tell you.
That's it.
So no, it's a no for them too. And for me, going through all these names, it's just all roads lead back to Christophe Galtier, and I don't know. That's for me. That's just it seems to be the way forward. I don't know, but it changes by the hour, doesn't it?
That's it, mate. And I fully agree. By the way, I'm on the Christophe Galtier train. I've got me orange juice, me pack of crisps, me sandwich, and I've got a first class ticket. And I'm on this train. I'm full on Christophe Galtier. Now, as soon as I seen him do roly polies on the pitch, I was like, "That's it. That's the man." And then someone else tweeted that he'd said someone had asked him if it was his dream to manage Liverpool, and he just basically laughed and said, "No, it's not my dream to manage Liverpool." And I was like, "Oh my god, the boxes are just getting ticked and ticked and ticked here." But look. Ultimately, you're right. There's a lot of names on the list, and a lot of them are uninspiring, and a lot of them are sort of you look at and you think, and I think maybe a lot of that's down to going from Carlo Ancelotti to these names. If we went from Marco Silva to Nuno, maybe it'd be a bit more inspiring. If we went from Marco Silva to Graham Potter, maybe it'd be a bit different. But going from Carlo Ancelotti to Graham Potter is like, oh my god.
The difficulty is as well, it was always going to be a downgrade, wasn't it? I think that's a lot of the problem here. So it was always going to be a downgrade. And I think because we were so happy and we were so content with Ancelotti. And let's not forget, a lot of fans backed that man to the hilt last season when a lot of managers in years gone by would have been out the door with some of them performances of Goodison straight away. Absolutely. And they wouldn't have survived that home record. But Everton fans backed him to the hilt, and slap in the face that we received off him, it was really hurtful, and it really did get a lot of fans down. And I think that's the bitter taste is still there in this come for the manager, and we can see that with all the different opinions and all and which I totally can understand, and that's normal, that's natural. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But for me, it's Galtier's the man.
There you go. Well, before we finish up, let me throw one more name at you before we finish up. Rumoured again. I said the other day that this fella's like Marmite. You either want him or you don't want him. Duncan Ferguson.
You know what? Yeah. It's the biggest risk. I feel like it could go very well or very bad. I feel like if Ferguson took charge, I feel like there'd be no one between, in my opinion. I feel like it'll unite the club, and it'll be the missing piece that we've been looking for years gone by, or it'll be a disaster because he's not been proven in a full Premier League season. But then you could argue, listen, he's worked under the current Barcelona Real Madrid manager. He's at the club.
And Belgium. And Belgium as well.
Belgium, of course, yeah. So, I can see the Ferguson shout, I can, but I think you've got to be very careful there because that could go very badly, very quickly with Ferguson. And I wouldn't like it. I'd love for Ferguson to be a successful manager at Everton and sort of go into that sort of Steven Gerrard mould of someone who knows the club. If Gerrard went to Liverpool, he could be our sort of flagship manager. But it's just so difficult to say with Duncan Ferguson because he had a good spell in between when Silva left, but I don't want that to be ruined. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want is him to go out on a bad note, and it's a risk. That would be a big risk for me. I don't think we're in a position to take risks, to be honest, at this moment in time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. A couple of the comments. Luke says, my concern with Ferguson is that the players went all out. Hang on a minute. Went all out for that Chelsea game and were burnt out for the next 2 or 3 games. I think that shows the fitness of the squad. He also seems like an English anger bias. Paul says, Steven says, go get Rodgers. He wouldn't come to Everton. Andy says, Galtier all the way. The Chelsea game was my highest point as a match goer, though. Yeah, it was certainly mine.
Yeah, same. Yeah, but like, I don't want that to be ruined. You know what I mean? Like, if he starts getting like a bad rep and all that, I feel like that's gonna be disastrous for Ferguson.
Absolutely. And Neil says Santo is a no-go, not a good fit at all. There you go. Well, look, we'll finish it up there then. Good place to finish it. Big thanks to everybody for joining us live. You got involved in the live comments. Really, really do appreciate it. Massive thanks to Cal for joining us as well. Go and give Cal a follow on Twitter. Absolutely fantastic.
Cheers.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure we'll have Cal on a lot more in the future, and hopefully try and get Cal on the Mighty Blues as well, because absolutely love this discussion. Boss, loved it. Brilliant.
Cheers,
brilliant.
Yep.
Thank you very much, mate. Big thanks to everybody for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. And we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. See you later.
All the best. Yeah.